Welcome back to Scovid Rewind. In this video, we'll be exploring one of the horror movie from 2007 titled Wreck. Before we begin, I hope you're having an amazing day. Grab your favorite snack, sit back, and enjoy the recap. Let's dive straight into the story. The movie began when Angela Vidal, a gutsy young TV reporter who thinks she's getting another routine night on the beat, quick human interest piece, follow some firefighters, get a dramatic close-up, go home. She's bright, nervous in that endearing on-air way, and she brings a cameraman and a tech to tag along with the Barcelona fire crew for what's supposed to be an ordinary emergency call. That ordinary night slides straight off the rails, and by the time the sun comes up, nobody's sure what's real anymore. It starts small and believable. An old woman screaming behind a locked door in an apartment building. The emergency crew forces their way in and finds a terrified neighbor and a bloody, feral-looking woman holed up in a room. The team thinks they're dealing with a domestic violence case or a psychotic break. Angela's camera keeps rolling. Candid reactions, tight faces, the squeal of the fire truck engine. Because the show must go on, even when things look ugly. I mean, you can almost hear someone say, "Well, this'll make great footage," right before everything goes south. From the first contact, it's clear something's wrong in a way that breathing heavily and forcing people to stay on camera can't mask. That violent woman doesn't sound right. Her mouth looks wrong. She attacks in a frenzy, and this is where the everyday danger turns into something contagious and feral. The building's residents, the crew, and Angela's team become trapped when police and military pour in and seal the place off, turning a single-scene emergency into a quarantined nightmare. The tone shifts from gritty docu-realism to claustrophobic horror. Mirrored hallways, locked stairwells, and the camera following like an anxious fly. The quarantine protocol is brutal and bureaucratic. No one in, no one out, and soldiers set up a perimeter. People who weren't involved suddenly find themselves caged with neighbors, a weird mix of personalities shoved together under duress. An old man who's less composed than he looks, a group of drunk but loud young people, a woman with a baby, squatters, and terrified families. That diversity of residents makes the pressure cooker feel real. Claustrophobia isn't just physical, it's social. The camera crews keep documenting because they have to, and that choice becomes one of the film's cleverest cruelties. The lens lets us witness panic in real time, and we can't look away. Neither can Angela. Transmission is messy and quick. At first, the symptoms are odd. Glassy eyes, sudden rage, a high-pitched animal scream, attacks that are swift and merciless. Bite wounds and frantic scratching pass the condition from person to person. The film handles it with rawness. No faux scientific names, no big reveals about patient zero, just escalating, intimate terror. People start changing in the building. The sympathetic neighbor you liked at the beginning suddenly morphs into a snarling antagonist. Panic begets mistakes. Shots fired into the dark. Barricades thrown up with whatever's at hand, and scenes of people making terrible, frantic choices. It's the kind of horror where strategy dies fast because emotion takes over. Angela keeps recording even as her own safety becomes questionable. There's real bravery mixed with professional instinct, and maybe a messy need for byline glory. She tries to be useful beyond the footage, helping where she can, but the camera never really lets her go. The cameraman is a quiet presence, often tense and sometimes praying the battery will last long enough to capture a good shot. Their dynamic reads as genuine colleagues turned survivors, not polished heroes. That makes their decisions more believable and more heartbreaking when things go wrong. Inside the building, you get a string of scenes that hurt because they're both intimate and ordinary. A woman desperate to protect her child. A guy who goes from jokester to terror-stricken in a matter of minutes. Neighbors turning on neighbors. The emergency lighting and the claustrophobic corridors make every corner feel like a trap. The strobe of the handheld camera and the close-up pove create panic as if you're right there, holding the camera on your lap while someone screams behind the door you just decided not to open. A priest shows up at one point, which adds a different kind of unease. He offers a religious explanation and tries to perform last rites, the liturgy rubbing up against raw infection and raw fear. Whether you read that as superstition or as a desperate attempt to impose order, the scene works. People will reach for any explanation when rules break down. You don't get neat answers. Instead, you get human reactions, bargaining, pleading, lashing out, and some bizarre, tragic attempts at ritual to keep the darkness at bay. The priest's presence complicates the narrative without ever turning the story into a supernatural tale. It stays messy and human. As the outbreak escalates, corridors become battlegrounds. People make escape attempts, and some succeed, briefly, only to be cut down or to succumb to the contagion. There are tense, brutal encounters in stairwells and apartments, and the camera captures corners of devotion, cowardice, and sacrifice. A firefighter's training helps for a while, but not forever. The makeshift defenses collapse, camera batteries die, and the recorded footage becomes scarcer and scarcer. The film uses that to its advantage, letting us feel the dwindling perspective when you realize the lens isn't a safety net. What's particularly effective is how the movie keeps the horror personal. It never tries to show a global pandemic. It keeps the focus tight and human. We're with Angela and the people in that building. There's a consistent, grim logic to what happens. Infection, panic, isolation, and a breakdown of order. Every failed plan and every sudden scream ratchets up the dread. The sound design, the screams, the banging, the breathing, is almost a character itself. It's a reminder that sometimes what you hear is more terrifying than what you see. Towards the end, hope becomes a fragile, foolish thing. Plans to escape are made and dashed. The camera becomes a witness to final attempts. The group tries to improvise a way out through the roof or the ventilation shafts. People fight bravely, stupidly, heroically, and often in vain. The film doesn't give you catharsis. It gives you endurance. You watch characters cling to each other and to the idea that they'll make it out alive, and then you watch those hopes crumble. It's uncomfortable and honest. Angela's footage ends up feeling like a confession. She's been through trauma and keeps talking into the lens, alternately reporting and pleading. There's a rawness to her performance that's impossible to fake. Tired, frightened, and still somehow telling the truth. The film closes on an ambiguous, claustrophobic note. There's no tidy rescue, no last-minute explanation that wraps everything in neat paper. Instead, you get an image that lingers, a sound that sticks in your chest, and the unpleasant understanding that things have changed irrevocably for everyone involved. The camera's final moments force you to confront the story intimately. It's not a scream and cut, so much as a slow, terrible realization captured on a wobbling handheld device. If you haven't seen it, Wreck is less about plot machinations and more about atmosphere and containment. It's tight, unforgiving, and effective because it trusts the audience to fill in the bigger picture while it focuses on the claustrophobia and human collapse within one building. It's the kind of horror that doesn't need to explain every detail to get under your skin. You leave oddly breathless, and possibly annoyed that you can't stop thinking about a hallway and a scream. And if you're the kind who asks, what was the point of bringing a camera in? The movie answers simply, sometimes the camera is the only thing left that bears witness, and that's both its power and its curse. Worth a watch if you like your scares up close, messy, and disturbingly plausible.